Are you ready to take your organization to the next level and become a game changer in your industry? Then look no further. Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, where we bring you the world's top business thought leaders to share their secrets to success, from leadership development to finance, marketing, self-development, human resource management, and much, much more. Our guests reveal the strategies, tactics, and mindsets that have made them so successful. So let's dive in and learn from the best in the business. Hello and welcome back to another great episode. With me is a dear friend of ours, Chad, who's joining us for the very first time here on the show. In fact, Chad was referred to the show by one of our previous guests. Thanks to you guys listening and your downloads, that they have had some tremendous success. And now we've got Chad joining us here on the show for the first time. So I want to say thank you again if you're joining us for the first time, or if you're returning to listen to some of the great minds there is when it comes to business in my time. You are in for a treat, because what we're about to talk about is something that I truly believe in. If you get it right, life in your business may become a little bit less stressful. In fact, you might be able to achieve more in relatively less time, and you have a lot of people happy within your organization too. Chad, thank you so much for joining us. How are you, man?
I am great, and thank you for the opportunity. Glad to be with you.
It's awesome, man. I was looking forward to having this conversation with you since MJ connected us, and I thought to myself, if there was one topic that I wish I had mastered right at the beginning of my journey as a business owner, it would have been the topic of having proper processes in place and knowing how to implement those processes and what to focus on in creating the processes. Because without those, my journey has been up and down. I had so much headache. So I'm glad that today you might be able to help and serve people like me, and perhaps a Bill in the audience today. So thank you so much for agreeing to be here on the show. Truly, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Now, you have a very interesting statistic that I would like you to talk about for those who are joining us for the first time.
Yeah, this was some research done by some larger consulting firms, but less than 10% of the organizations out there, so your listeners are among them, less than 10% achieve majority of their strategic goals. So that means we set out to accomplish something, and it's this very small fraction, 1 in 10 companies actually get to where they're going.
Incredible. We are going to explore why that is in a moment, but before we dive deep in this, Chad has got enormous experience as a change agent for large organizations, and has worked with several Fortune 500 companies, and has helped enormous amount of people with their mindset when it comes to processes. And today we're going to explore more of what he does. Who knows? You might find his processes is easier and simpler for you to implement in your organization. Remember, we always want you to get the fastest way of getting things done in a healthy and in a way that builds everybody. So, Chad, talk to us. Why is it only 10% of all these businesses fail to reach their strategic goals?
Yeah, I think what I've seen in my experience and with clients that I serve, it's because they're lacking two things: focus and alignment. And that focus piece, meaning it's clear across the leadership or divisions, depending upon the size of the organization. It's clear what we're going after and what's the most important thing or things to go after. And then that enables you to get alignment. So if we have a finite number of resources that are going to change or improve our processes, let's align all of that effort, kind of like a magnifying glass focusing the sun on those key areas of focus. When we do that, I see organizations achieve more of the strategic goals they set out for.
Yeah, it is interesting because in our previous conversation earlier on, before we jump on here, you were talking about, if you've got fewer things you're working on that you're focused on, you actually get there faster. Would you expand on this?
Yeah, if you had a set amount of energy to put through any change effort, right? So, and let's be honest, to define or improve any process takes effort.
Right.
So if we have a finite amount of effort in our organization to do that work, the more things we try to do, the shorter distance we can actually move them forward. And this is a big change of mindset I help the clients go through, is that the answer isn't always no. So when we focus down and we say, these are the critical 1 to 3 things, the answer isn't always no. It might be not yet. And think about that. If we can get these 3 things moving first, we can circle back to get maybe the ones of secondary importance. But I see organizations that are impressed by how quickly they get to a goal, a target condition, a process definition, stability, just by focusing on a few things and aligning all their effort toward that.
Yeah, it is incredible, really. And, even in life, if you focus on far too many things, you end up losing all of them. You spread your effort all over the place and you won't achieve anything. And it makes perfect sense. Now, one question I think anybody would have is, when you're running a business, there are far too many things that seems to want your attention, that you need to be on top of them. How do you then narrow it down to 1 to 3 things? Because especially when you are starting, like Bill, has been in it for maybe 4 or 5 years, they're not quite narrow it down properly. How do you go about doing that?
We're assuming that we've gotten to the point where we think something needs to change or improve. Either
Oh yes,
I am planning to transition my business, whether that's internal to the family or sell it, so I need to stabilize it. I'm entering a new market, new product, so I'm going to grow, so I need to stabilize before I can grow, right? Build a firm foundation. In any of those situations, it starts with some catalyst, some why, right? Why do I need to change now? And that is most often anchored in things like mission and vision. Now, those terms, I admit, even early in my career, felt a little woo-woo-y, like very soft. But the thing is, that really charts a longer term, say, a compass heading of where we're taking the organization. So if I can understand those things, actually a lot of the other priorities kind of fall away, because it's not the most important thing right now. Right. So if we can narrow down to what is the most important thing right now that is either preventing us from taking a step forward towards our vision, that becomes the most important thing. So we do take a step back and make sure that the owner of the business, or if they already have a small leadership team, are aligned on, why does this business exist? What are we trying to cultivate in the future? And maybe that gives a little bit of a common lens that team can look at their business and then decide, oh, right, this is probably the most important, or the 2 most important things to focus on right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. So once you establish your why, just for my clarity here, a lot of things will fall away that you may be attempting to do. And then you decide which processes to then work on. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So we get to that. And then once I can answer the question why, I need to answer the question what, which is, what would my performance look like in the future? So now I need some sort of measurement to say, am I making progress? And so that measure might be in terms of costs. It might be in terms of lead time to market. It might be in terms of delivery or quality. And so we measure something that says that's going to be an indicator that we're making progress. And then, yes, to your point, we cascade that down. I use a tool called a KPI, Key Performance Indicator tree. Yeah. And we build out visually, okay, what are the requirements and processes that help us deliver that level goal? Now it becomes clear to me, so which processes do I focus on first? Well, probably on the processes that are most important to achieving my goal. So now I've got some narrowed focus for my team to go out and attack.
Amazing. I love that. And just to divert a little bit, a lot of people, especially my audience, know that they need to have these processes and they need to focus on a few things we've talked about. But there seem to be some stumbling blocks, for people to act on what we already know. From your experience in helping, business owners, would you share maybe 1 or 2 stumbling blocks and how we can overcome them as a follow-up question.
One stumbling block is that we make it too rigid. And by that, I mean, we make it so specific to follow that there is no latitude for the frontline value creators. So whether that's operators on our assembly line or customer service agents or field technicians, if we make things too constrictive, then there's not a lot of flexibility to actually serve the customer. Maybe you've experienced a business like that where say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Right? It's like if we give no latitude within the process, that becomes a stumbling block. And even if you think about back office processes, if it's so rigid in the way I execute it, sometimes I just need to get the job done as well. So one can be like making it overly rigid. It might be, well, this is the way that Chad does the process, so I'm going to document exactly how I do the process. And that might not be what actually helps achieve the goal. Yeah. I think the second stumbling block is being reactive. So we put processes in place because we've already been burned. Now, don't get me wrong, in a regulated environment, things like healthcare, FDA, food processing, aerospace, automotive, where you have a regulatory body, yes, if you get an audit finding, you probably need to close that gap. But like that shouldn't be when we start to think about process, or the only time we think about process. So rather than being reactive, we should be proactive and say, if this is a goal we're going after, are the processes in place to get there? And are they performing the way I want? That's the more beneficial time. And then in terms of context or complexity, only standard enough to get the result you want.
Well, I laughed there because, I was banned before in one of the projects, and I thought, oh my goodness, the processes were not in place. So I know exactly what you mean by saying being reactive, and that's not the best way to do it. And then looking back, talk of my own experience is I wish I had found somebody like Chad to talk to before I got involved in the entire business approach. So, if you're listening, maybe you've never come across somebody who can help you with your processes, thinking through the whole process and the actual implementation. Now perhaps will be the best time to reach out maybe to Chad, or, do a bit of a research to find out who can help you with your processes. Now, Chad, just to help people, qualify who is the right person to help them with their processes, what sort of criteria, having done this before, what can Bill and everybody listening in the audience here use as a qualifying criteria to choose the best person to work with them? Because there's a lot of people out there saying, I can do this.
Yeah. So the first thing is you may not need someone else. I mean, that's great. That's part of why I'm documenting my approach so I can share it with more people. So maybe you can learn to do it yourself. Why would you bring in someone outside, I think, is a first starting question. And that would be, I don't have the capabilities or the capacity to do it. So capacity, I just don't have the time. Capabilities, I don't have the knowledge, or I'm not, we'll say, willing to learn from that. Great. So if we get past that and say, I don't have the capacity or capability to do this, but I know I should start thinking about my business in terms of systems and processes. Then you need to go out and do some research. And in terms of choosing who, I think you need to look at a track record of implementation. Right. And so you may choose someone specifically because they work with your industry segment. You may choose someone because they work with a business of your size. You may choose someone because they work regionally or geographically, so you can build a relationship with them and they can be invested in your business. But I think the biggest thing is that they have a process that they follow, because I have a process to implement process. That sounds a little redundant, but it works. So I have a system that I follow and a series of steps that we walk the client through. So when you're looking to engage with someone, they should have some credibility, right? Some track record of successes, and they should be able to lay out for you up front, this is how we're going to get from where you are now to where you want to be in the future.
Incredible. Well, there you have it. If you want to know how to do that, we will have a link below this here where Chad, you can reach out to Chad for sure. Chad, let's go back to what we were talking about. There are people in our audience here today that want to align themselves. We talked about focus, but they know they're not in alignment with what they set out to be. And in your experience, how do you help business owners get that sweet spot?
Yeah, so the focus is first, and then alignment comes naturally, right? Because with lack of focus, our efforts, as we talked earlier, are just diffuse.
Yeah.
That requires a strong leader and the clarity of that first step of the why. If we can clearly articulate why we need to change, why we need to invest in process or change processes or pursue a particular goal, the leader needs to be able to articulate that. I can help with that, right? A consultant or a coach can help that leader with that, but the leader needs to be the guide, not the consultant. And so to get that alignment, there needs to be some sort of influence and ultimately a hold to account of the team that's helping you get there. So assuming you're a medium-sized business with, say, 1 or 2 layers of leadership or management, getting those teams aligned and then making sure that we are aligned is how we get there. Clear communication, clear, concise communication from the leader, and then some candid conversation or account to whether or not we are aligned with this path forward.
I love that. That's how you get things done. That accountability aspect. I've discovered that it works all the time. In any new organization, wherever you are, if you can be very clear and everybody's on the same page, and then you follow through and hold people accountable, it's amazing the thing that you get to achieve. It really is. I remember when it first happened for me after listening, I think it was James Moore who was talking about that a few years ago, and it changed, how I manage things. Be clear on what is expected and then hold people accountable. It truly is remarkable. For those who, perhaps have tried this and hasn't worked out for them, what are some of the things you have discovered that stops people from becoming aligned and really get things done?
Yeah, so the first step is narrowing our focus, right? So even if we're not going to accomplish everything, so we've been using this number 1 to 3 objectives. Narrow it further than that. If you can get one thing done, that would be amazing. So start small, start simple. That's one step. We don't need to become the leader in the industry tomorrow, right? So that would be the first thing. The other thing is a little bit more, we'll say complicated, not complex. So complicated deals with personal relationships. Sometimes you have organizations that have grown up and the leadership team has grown up with it, and it might not be the right leader anymore. That's hard. Then that's going to take the leadership team to align on. If you can't gain alignment on this direction, at a certain point, you have to have a serious conversation about, well, is that the correct focus and direction that we're going in? If it is, maybe we don't have the right people to take us there.
Well, I love the simplicity and the truth about that, for sure. We are coming toward the end of our time together, Chad. And as an expert in your field, are there any questions that you regularly get asked, when you're trying to help people that you think will be beneficial to everybody here today?
Yeah, we've talked about the question in a couple of different ways, but it's usually, where do we start? And we do have to back up. So I have a 5-step process that I walk my team through, and it is aligning on why are we changing it all? So if you can't communicate to your team why we're changing the way we manage the business, why we're changing this particular process, right, why we're changing this particular target or goal that we're going after, then the rest of the efforts are futile. Yeah. And so being able to have clear, concise communication about any initiative that you're going after is really where to start. So for these leaders, business leaders in your audience that are out there and they're thinking, wow, I really want to outperform my peers. I really want to stabilize performance. We got to step back and say, so why? And then this next step, and what would that look like? If we can clearly articulate that to the team, then everything else, the continuous improvement portion of it, doesn't become additional work. It just becomes how we run the business. And that's the biggest thing, especially in small and medium-sized businesses, is I don't have the extra time usually to go out and do additional improvement projects. So if we bake it into this is how we run the business, that's great. I mean, that's what we need. I don't need to be having a bolt-on solution of one more thing to do. But if it is directly aligned with our strategic goals and our purpose, we will get it done.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you. And final thoughts to a fellow business owner who is just perhaps getting off the COVID restrictions, or COVID by restriction, I mean the business not moving so well. What are your thoughts? How are you marketing your business? How are you staying ahead of the pack? And what is working for you today?
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about process. So I would go back to, well, which performance goal, KPI, key performance indicator, are they looking at that they want to improve? So if you say it's they're slacking off in terms of sales, and it has something to do with marketing and lead and close rate, right? Well, look, what are the processes that we have around that, and how do we measure performance? So it is, again, looking at, if we want repeatable, predictable results, we need a repeatable, predictable process underlying that. So I'm not trying to diminish at all the reality that COVID has brought to bear on some businesses and industries. But if there's a particular area that we want to look at, that's a fantastic place to start and say, do I understand how the business processes I'm executing every day affect my ability to achieve that goal? If not, let's map that out. Let's build that out into a requirements tree. Let's start defining those processes and then managing those process-based measures on a daily basis.
It's awesome. Incredible. And finally, you have a book coming up in October.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you share with everybody what is it about and where can people find it for sure?
Absolutely. So October 3rd is the launch date. The title of my book is Improve Less, the Focus and Aligned Framework for Sustainable Continuous Improvement. And I've distilled years of experience and study and certifications in Lean and Six Sigma and industrial engineering theory of constraints, and really tried to take what I have seen work, so distill that down into a practical framework that can be absorbed very quickly and fuel immediate action. And so that's going to walk you through 3 elements of any business management system. So that's how I run my business on a day-to-day basis and make decisions, and a 5-step process for implementing that system or structuring your business to be run on that system.
Incredible. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to learn more about processes, you know who you go to, and you will find a link below that will send you to Chad's website. And also, Chad, coming back to you, where can people buy the book when it's out?
Yeah, when it comes out, it'll be on Amazon. So if you go down right now into the links of this show, if you scroll down there, you should be able to find a link to my website. And on the top right corner, there's a link to the book page, which is Improve Less. So it's bareithergroup.com/Improve Less, the title of the book. And it's going to be for sale directly off of Amazon. And so you can buy it in Kindle, paperback, hard copy, whatever you prefer.
Perfect. I love the title there, Improve Less. Such a catchy title. Good work there. Well, thank you, Chad, for being on the show here again and being generous with what you know and your experience, just helping other business owners do better with their business. So we truly appreciate you.
All right, and I appreciate you and what you're doing for your listeners. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, thanks again for joining us here. And as always, we want to encourage you to take action on 1 or 2 things that you've learned today, implement it in your organization, and tell us how that one nugget which Chad has shared with you is helping you or helped you, so that we get encouraged. I always love to hear from you. So please email me at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com or at support@youkaibusinessshow.com. There will be some links here, and would love to hear from you. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to live well, to live with passion, and know that the best is truly yet to come. Chad, once again, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
And you as well. Thank you very much.
All the best to you. Goodbye for now. Thank you for tuning in to Yeukai Business Show. We hope you have enjoyed today's episode and have gained valuable insights and inspiration from our amazing guest. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review to help us spread the word. Also, be sure to check out our Leadership Ultimate Success Mastermind program, which is designed to help you and leaders in our community to do great things and support each other along their leadership journey. Until next time, live well, live with passion, know that the best is truly yet to come.